Hey, this is Coach Anderson, Mississippi Public Broadcasting Online, U.S. History from 1877 to present. Today we're going to look at a few of those questions from unit number 13 from Nixon, America from Nixon to Clinton. And what we hope to do, of course, is give you some insights in what those unit-focused questions were and then what the answers to them were, but also to give you some examples of some of the questions you might see that come up on the benchmark assessment or that may come up on the state test that will help you be very successful when it comes to U.S. history assessment this spring. First, we'll start with the 3 unit focus questions that we have. Now, after we go through every lesson, we make sure that we go over these questions with you and tell you that they're designed, of course, to kind of shape or help you glean information of what you're going to need to know at the end of this particular unit. The first question is, what effect did the Nixon presidency have on American public psyche? 2, why did conservatism become such an attractive philosophy in the United States? And 3, describe the effect of technology and scientific innovation on the increased globalization of the United States. Well, when you look at it, it says, what effect did the Nixon presidency have on American public psyche? People started for the first time to mistrust our institutions, like the presidency. And we're going to find that with the resignation of Nixon, the resignation of his Vice President Spiritu Agnew, and then we're going to find out the secret bombings, of course, in Vietnam. We're going to find out Watergate. And because of those things, it's going to take a toll of the American public. Nixon's presidency eroded the public trust in American political institutions, and his resignation highlighted the fragility of our American political institutions, which fostered cynicism and disillusionment. A lot of people, for the first time, don't trust the American government and don't believe it when a president tells them something. And we're going to find that that's going to be a lingering problem that are even going to hold over even to present day. Why did conservatism become such an attractive political philosophy in the United States? Well, there were a lot of people who felt like the country was going in the wrong direction. They felt like that when you look at the Warren Court in the 1960s, that court does a whole lot of things, of course, to protect criminals in the minds of most people, but it didn't do a whole lot, of course, to help victims. So we're going to find that a lot of people, starting in the 1960s, early 70s, are going to believe that the country is going in a direction that needs to be stopped. Conservatism became attractive due to concerns over social changes, rising inflation, fears of communism. The emphasis on traditional values, strong national defense, and economic stability resonated with many, particularly after the tumultuous 1960s and the early 1970s. People want law and order, and they saw conservatism and a return to traditional values as the means to get there. Final question, describe the effect of technology and scientific innovation on the increased globalization of the United States. Technology and innovation fueled U.S. globalization by enhancing communication, transportation, and trade. The internet, advancements in computing, and the faster logistics made international business and cross-border interactions more efficient and interconnected. The world got smaller, and social media exploded, fostering interconnectedness with people all over the world. If you remember, when we were talking about all those people in the 70s and 80s, of course, Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniacki, when we look at a lot of these people with the creation of Apple, the creation of Microsoft, IBM, we're going to see that America and the rest of the world, of course, is going to change. And things are going to get smaller, especially during the 80s. We're going to find that technology, of course, brings people closer together. And we're talking about internet, things like that, puts everything at our fingertips for the first time. Which factor best explains why the United States entered into the North American Free Trade Agreement in 1994? To reduce trade restrictions with neighboring countries, B, to standardize wages across participating countries, C, to increase job opportunities for immigrants in the United States, D, to allow for the elimination of national borders with Canada and Mexico. The answer is to reduce trade restrictions. One of the things that Clinton has been criticized for was NAFTA. Now, even though NAFTA is just completed during his time as president, it actually started with George H.W. Bush. And a lot of people say that the loss of American manufacturing jobs happened because of NAFTA. And Clinton gets credit, even though NAFTA in its infancy started during George H.W. Bush's presidency. In 1962, Rachel Carson published a book called The Silent Spring, documenting the environmental effects of pesticides. Why did the U.S. government respond to the publication of The Silent Spring? A, it was clear that environmental concerns would be eliminated as soon as wildlife returned to the area. B, it was clear that environmental crisis existed, so regulations were needed to protect the environment. C, it was clear that the environmental concerns would be the best addressed by allowing the free market to self-regulate. D, it was clear that an environmental crisis was causing a decrease in the corporate profitability, so regulations need to be relaxed. Well, EPA was created to protect the environment, and based on that, the best answer, of course, would be B. It was clear that environmental crisis existed, so regulations were needed to protect the environment. It's in the name, Environmental Protection Agency. This excerpt comes from George H.W. Bush's January 29, 1991 State of the Union address. And what it says is this: for 2 centuries, America has served the world as an inspiring example for freedom and democracy. For generations, America has led the struggle to preserve and extend the blessings of liberty. And today, in a rapidly changing world, American leadership is indispensable. Americans know that leadership brings burdens and sacrifice. Based on the excerpt and your knowledge, why did the United States choose to enter the Persian Gulf War in 1991? A, to stop the spread of communism throughout the Middle East. B, to create humanitarian programs that would improve living conditions. C, to form alliances with European nations to increase the world's oil supply. D, to liberate a sovereign nation from a neighboring country's military aggression. And the answer simply is D. Which statement describes the effect of the Watergate scandal? A, Americans began to distrust the federal government. B, Americans opposed limiting the power of the presidency. C, the Americans re-elected Richard Nixon to serve to a second term as president. D, Americans became more supportive of Richard Nixon's administration. Well, the best answer is he destroyed a lot of trust in the American government. So the answer would be A. 5, which statement describes the significance of the 1994 party policy document referred to as Contract with America? It helped Democrats gain 12 governorships. It helped Democrats gain 20 state legislators, legislature control. It helped Republicans gain control of both houses of Congress. It helped Republicans gain support for Democratic strategies. Well, the Contract with America was Newt Gingrich. Newt Gingrich, of course, was a Republican. And which one of these is benefiting Republicans? It would be C. 6, what effect did Reaganomics have on the U.S. economy during the 1980s? Remember we said about trickle-down economics? This supply-side economic policy caused a decrease in the national debt and domestic spending. This tax and spend economic policy caused an increase in corporate taxes and domestic spending. This trickle-down economic policy caused a decrease in inflation and an increase in the national debt. And then D, the laissez-faire economic policy caused a decrease in the national debt and increased inflation rates. And the answer very simply is C. Remember we said about trickle-down? That's exactly what we have here. This paragraph summarizes some of President George H.W. Bush's foreign policy experience. The statements: when George H. Bush became president, he had one of the most impressive foreign policy resumes of any individual ever elected president. He had previously served as director of the United States Liaison Office to the People's Republic of China. He was the director of the CIA, U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, Vice President of the United States. Some consider his greatest foreign policy strength to be his significant foreign policy experience. His calm and pragmatic nature and his ability to work well with other world leaders was evident. We said now, and foreign policy-wise, he was an excellent president. There's only going to be a few other missteps that will cost him the presidency. How did the U.S. involvement in the 1991 Persian Gulf War reflect President Bush's foreign policy strength as described in the paragraph? He assembled an international coalition that led the liberation of Iraq. He assembled an international coalition that led the liberation of Kuwait. He decided to remain neutral and only supply Kuwait with weapons and training. He tried to prevent other countries from attempting diplomacy before invading Iraq. Well, he liberated Kuwait. So the best answer would be B. Last question I think we have: which type of spending has been most responsible for the growth of the national debt? Spending on national defense and homeland security, spending on unemployment compensation and education, spending on programs related to health care services and retirement, spending on programs related to global warming and international affairs. I know the answer for many, when you look at it at first glance, would probably be A, and you would think that we spend a whole lot of money, of course, on national defense, which we do, but the thing that we spend more money on than anything else, and we alluded to the fact that we don't have health care in this country, is because we have so many people. And just with Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security, most of the spending in the United States of America goes to programs related to health care services and retirement. So Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, Obamacare now, So that's where the bulk of American money, of course, goes to. All right, what we hope to do, of course, is give you some examples of some of the questions that you'll see on the benchmark test, of course, and also on the state assessment. If you pay attention to some of those questions and go through and practice some of the questions that we give, not only in this unit, but on the other units, they are a reflection of some of the questions that you'll see when it comes to the state assessment. This is Coach Anderson, Mississippi Public Broadcasting Online, U.S. History from 1877 to present. And remember, don't take my word for it. Do your own research, draw your own conclusion. And with that, we'll see you next time.